'cause women's football matters.
My name is Cathrine Graversen. I'm from Denmark, but I'm also half Filipino. Currently, I'm in Denmark. I recently just finished my contract in Turkey. Yeah, and I'm a professional football player. Usually, I play abroad, so I don't know where my next adventure is gonna be, but we'll see.
And we're definitely going to talk about that. But first, I wanted to ask you, given you grew up in Denmark, you're half Danish. Can you talk us through how you got into football? How kind of that love for you developed?
Yeah, well, I actually didn't play football when I was young, as many other players. I started when I was 11 years old. But the interest has always been there. Like at school, I would play with the guys and all of this. So, and then I started playing, and I knew that I was pretty good at it. And then I started playing on a high level. And yeah, that's how it started.
And at what point did you decide that you kind of want to pursue this professionally, or you want to, maybe go abroad as well?
Well, as soon as I started realizing that I was pretty good at football, dreams started to develop and all of this. And then once I started playing on a high level as well, like I saw opportunities to go abroad, and yeah, you gain more like knowledge and information from other players as well, and you get to play with other people who's been abroad, and then you're starting to gain interest from this.
What was your first stint abroad then, and how did that come about?
My first country abroad was Italy, actually. So I got this agent from one of my teammates in Denmark, and he found this club in Italy. You might have heard of it. They're currently playing Serie A. It's called Pomigliano. But when I was there, they were playing Serie B, but they promoted the season I was there.
And was it hard for you to take that step to go abroad, leave your family, your friends behind?
I moved out of away from home when I was 15, just playing in Denmark though. So being my first country abroad, it was difficult, or definitely different from moving out of my home. But I'm used to being independent and all of this, so that aspect of it was not that difficult. But of course, in a different country where they don't speak English, and there's a lot of factors, but yeah, it was a little difficult, but I feel like I've grown with the task and all of that.
How many languages do you speak? Like, did you learn every new language in every new country, or you're just trying to get by with English and Danish?
I try to get by with Danish and English, mainly English, of course, but I do learn, on the field, you gotta learn some of the words, you know? So I do know, a tiny bit Italian, and, I was playing in Cyprus as well, so I learned a little Greek, and, yeah, so Swedish is easy for me. I played in Sweden as well, but that's so similar to Danish, so...
And how did the Turkey stint come about? Because as you already mentioned, like the last year you played in the Turkish Super League. Yeah, how did they approach you, or how did you decide to go to Turkey?
All of my clubs is through my agencies that I've had. So they reach out to my agent, we need this player and this position, and we can offer this amount of money. So it's all through him. That I get these opportunities, and then it's basically for me to say yes or no.
And what was that like arriving in Turkey again, a new language, new culture?
Of course, it's always hard, going to a new country, because I've been in so many countries by now, and it's all the same, new people, like you said, new culture. It's a huge adjustment every time, but I feel like you become better at it, if you keep going. Like I said, I've been in other countries, so I'm used to it by now. But of course, there's always countries like Turkey and Italy, and the language barrier is a huge thing. But in Turkey, we actually ended up having a translator, so that helped a lot. Otherwise, we were sitting with Google Translate in the beginning, right? So
Is there a country that you haven't played in where you really want to play in the future?
Actually, I always wanted to play in Germany because of the structure and like it's very physical and all of that, those aspects. So to me, and the level is really good. So
But for now, right now you don't know where you're gonna be or where you're gonna play the next year, or haven't decided on that.
no, I haven't decided the future part yet. I'm talking to my agent frequently, so we'll see.
We also want to talk about, as you already mentioned, you're half Filipinian. When did when did you realize that you were eligible to play for the Philippine national team? Like, when did that thought even cross your mind?
Well, it's actually like a long time ago. In 2017, they started having these tryout camps in the States. I didn't have a passport back then, but I did attend to the training camp, and like that's how I became interested in being a part of the national team as well. And they were helping you gaining the passports, like giving you all the information you needed and helping you out like that.
We already heard that getting the passport isn't that easy, or like takes a long time. How long did it take for you?
Well, maybe 6 months or something. I guess. Well, we have like I had to go to Norway to get my passport. First of all, like we don't have an embassy in Denmark. We have that now, but not back then. But you gotta have a lot of paperwork. Let's say it like that.
And then back then you traveled to the US and went to training camps there.
Yeah, I've been on a few. Like I was at the recent camp in South Korea. Um, but now like the national team is so different from back then. Like now we have training camps during the FIFA windows. Back then it was like for 3 months or like a longer period, and it was more difficult, but now it's like developed into a good direction, more professional.
Maybe going back to 2017 and you being at a first training camp, did they pick you up and you get it, like you knew would get a chance to play in the national team, or was it still like, oh, you're just here to kind of try that out, or how did it feel for you at that time?
Back then, I was actually injured with a concussion. So I did attend to the tryout camp, but of course I didn't get selected because I was injured. And it took me a while to get back on track, back on the field. So I tried again in 2019, where they have these tryout camps before a tournament, for example. And then they like slowly pick the players you want for the tournament throughout the tryout.
And when was the first time that they picked you?
It was for SEA Games 2019 in the Philippines.
And at that point, of course, a few days later, they qualified for the World Cup. Did you hope to go? Like, were you, I don't know, dreaming of going to the World Cup back then?
Like, of course, like the interest in the national team were so high, like because of the World Cup qualifications and like them going and all of that. But eventually, it's up to the coach, right? Like, I was just trying to stay like on my track and focus on my career, doing as good as I could in the clubs that I was playing at. And then if the coach wanted to select me, like he would have the option. But eventually, it's up to the coach who he wants to be a part of his team.
Of course, the next World Cup is going to be in Brazil. Is that kind of a dream for you, or are you trying not to think that far ahead yet?
Like a World Cup is always a dream. I think for every player, it's a huge opportunity. But I don't know, like it's pretty like further out in the future, right? So I'm gonna take it year by year and see how I develop and how things are gonna turn out.
What is it like within the Philippine national team? Because of course there's some players who grew up in the Philippines, and then there are a lot of diaspora players. Is it also sometimes they're hard to kind of have all these different influences and cultures in the team, or what's that like?
I don't know. I feel like it's kind of feels natural in some way, but also like the main part of the national team is from the States, like so like and their culture is like very open and warming and all of that. So like in that way, it's not that difficult. Say it was a Philippine national team filled with Danish people, it would be really hard because we take time to open up and we seem a little cold sometimes. So
But has that also like playing style wise? Because as you said, a lot of them play in the US, learn to play in the US. Does it? Yeah, do you kind of see the difference of the playing style when you play in the national team?
well, yeah, everybody has their own style, of course, but like eventually we stick to the structure that the coach is gonna give us, like the tactics and all of that. So we all like try to adjust towards his vision, if you get what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah. Have you also kind of, when going to all the different countries and having these different playing styles, like had to adapt to the playing styles, or maybe taken bits and pieces from every country, or how does it feel like for you?
Oh yeah, every country is definitely different in the way they're playing, and you always gotta adjust. It's always about like what the coach wants, so you gotta adjust to whatever his vision is. But of course, you're hoping that your playing style fits within the system, and if it doesn't, you gotta adjust, right? If you want to play at least.
How would you describe your playing style?
I'm more position, like keeping the ball and like playing around, simple passes and stuff like that. And like I'm a fullback usually, so I also like doing overlaps and this. Yeah.
How has it kind of changed when the Filipinian national team had a new coach? Again, an Australian coach, but has it? Yeah, have you noticed a shift kind of since Mark Turcaso has taken over?
I think it's in a positive way. I don't know, like because I wasn't really there with the former coach, like the coach they had doing the World Cups. So I don't know like the big difference, to be honest. But at least like the new coach, he's more open minded. He's willing to give players like me like a new chance and stuff like that. So like I'm taking advantage and hoping for the best.
And what does it feel like when you step on the field for the national team? Like you played against South Korea. Are you more nervous when playing for the national team than you are at club level?
Well, of course, it's something different. Like it's huge. Like playing for a country, your country. Like I feel like Philippines is my country. But yeah, like it's different for sure because you're playing for a whole nation versus just like a tiny little club. But as for being nervous, I feel like I've been playing for so many years now that I know how to like adjust the level of nervousness. So yeah, I wouldn't say nervous, but more excited.
Are there any kind of dreams you have for the future, like for the national team or for the club, like things you want to achieve?
Like personally, I just wanna like be more of a consistent part of the national team, because I feel like I'm still like trying to gain my spot in the national team back. So I'm fighting for that.
And for the national team as a whole, are you guys talking about, well, the next World Cup yet, or more like the next Asian Cup? Like, what are kind of the goals for the national team right now?
Like I think the next like tournament is gonna be next year. So like for this year, it's more focusing on developing or like evolving or yeah, like the small tiny things like the tactic and these kind of things. And I don't know, like maybe figure out like which kind of squad he wants. I'm not sure, but yeah.
And then, of course, we also saw that you ran a marathon, or you run a lot. So I was gonna ask you about that, of course, as well, because you didn't just run a marathon; you ran a marathon on the Chinese wall. So why did you do that? Maybe first of all.
Well, a few years ago, I don't know, I was thinking to myself, like, could I run a marathon? You know, like, am I capable of running a marathon? Because it's so long and it's like 42.195 kilometers. And like as a football player, you don't run those long distances, and you gotta be in really good shape to do that. So, and I've never really been able to participate in one of those races, and particularly like the one on the Great Wall of China. It's supposed to be one of the world's most challenging marathons, like just to take it up a notch, you know. That's why I picked that one. And like this year, I don't know, like it wasn't planned actually. Just came out of like I came home from Turkey, and then I was like, I wonder when that marathon is gonna be. And it was like 1 month from the day I arrived in Denmark, and I was like, okay, I have 1 month to prepare for this marathon, and I've always wanted to do it, so I just took a chance, and I yeah, I signed up for it and I completed it.
How does like, because of course when you train day in day out to play football, but that is very different from training to run a marathon, because of course you have the stop and go in football, and then for a marathon you just run and run and run. Like, did you change your training schedule, or how did you adjust that?
Oh yeah, for sure. Because you gotta get used to running long distance. Say in a game you run like maybe maximum 15 kilometers, and like that's like not even half of the marathon. So you gotta adjust your body because it's a different way of using your body, and you know you don't want to get a lot of injuries. So you gotta run like long distances, like really long distances in your training as well, like the preparation, right? So you get your body used to it.
And in that time, did you play, in that month preparing, did you play football as well, or was it then just running and training for the marathon?
Yeah, I was definitely only focusing on the marathon. So like we didn't even have like a camp for the national team anyway. So I feel like I had this month, and I can like just focus on the marathon for this month, because otherwise I would probably be injured in a lot of ways if I didn't prepare like that.
And when you then arrived at the Great Wall and you, yeah, had to actually run it, and for people who don't know, it isn't just the running part, it's also that there are a lot of steps that you have to like, yeah. How was that? Did you prepare for the steps part as well, or was it kind of, yeah, hard to adjust to that?
Well, like you said, there's like 5,000 something steps on the wall, up and down as well. Like I tried at the gym. I tried to use the stairmaster, but the difference is like the heights or the levels of the steps is so different on the wall, so you can't really prepare, and it's so unstable. Like there's like I don't know how to describe it, but it's not really something you can prepare for. Let's say put it like that. It's so different on the wall, and I guess you have to try it to like believe it, or yeah, you know, understand at least.
But you actually didn't just finish the marathon, you finished it pretty well. Were you happy with your result, or how did it feel?
Well, I became the first Danish woman to finish the marathon, so like that's something. um, but yeah, like of course, like I didn't aim for winning the marathon, like becoming first. But if I do go back, I do want to become number one.
And are you planning to go back, like run other marathons, run this marathon again?
Well, I did have 2 weeks after I did have a marathon in Stockholm. Um, I was like, I gotta have something to compare it to, because they say it's one of the world's most challenging marathons. So that's why 2 weeks after I ran a marathon in Stockholm. Um, but besides that, I don't really have a marathon planned. I think I'm gonna maybe focus on football for a while, and then maybe I'll go back to running marathons.
Yeah. And how about like this summer now? Are you playing football again, or how are you keeping in shape? Are you playing in any teams right now?
Well, I'm training on my own, like a lot, actually every day, and I go to the gym. So I'm just staying fit, and then I see what's gonna happen. Like as I told you, I talk to my agent really often, and yeah, take it from there. You never know what's gonna happen. Like the football is so unpredictable. So
Are there any national team camps upcoming as well, or do you have some free time from that?
they're talking about having a camp over the summer or something, but they haven't sent out specific dates or anything. So we're still waiting to hear back from them.
And then finally, we have two questions that we ask every guest. So I'm gonna ask you them as well. And the first one is you kind of already answered it, but how you got into football, and maybe more importantly to add to that, like what fascinated you about it or what made you stick with football?
Well, like as I said, my interest developed when I was playing like in school and like with the guys and stuff like that. Like, but I started late. But what kept me going was just the fact that you can always get better, you know, and it's a team sport. I like the social aspects of it, and like your team is not better than the worst player. That's what I've always heard. So, like just to develop as a team is really like interesting to me, and like yeah, you motivate each other and you challenge each other as well because of the yeah, you want to be the best, you want to play. So of course there's that aspect as well. So yeah.
And then the second question is you can answer it for yourself or for football as a whole, however you want to do it, but what are some of your hopes but also fears you have for the future?
Fears is not finding a club. But no, I hope that like in general that women's football is gonna develop like more money, let's say it like that, because it's really hard on a daily basis if you don't have a good enough salary. Like you gotta work on the side and you can't really focus as much. So I do hope that women's football is gonna develop more, so we have more free time on our hands to just focus on football. I know it's progressing as it is, but there's still a long way to go. Yeah.
Maybe can I also, I said this was the last question, but I want to ask you about this. You, as you said, like a lot of players have to work on the side. How was that for you? Like when you started being professional, did you still have to work, or yeah, could you just focus on football?
So like that's actually the reason I went abroad to begin with, because in Denmark you didn't get paid enough. You had to work on the side, have a full-time job or something. So when I started going abroad, like okay, the amount of money is not like that much, but then they pay for your apartment or and your flights and all of this. Like you have all the accommodation like there for you, so you can get around, but it's not that you're gonna have a huge saving. Um, so I would like I could do it professionally, but depends on how you I don't know define professional.
And how would you maybe define it for yourself, if that makes sense? Like, what would be a, you don't have to say a number or something, but like, how would you like to live in order to really feel free to just be focused on playing football?
Aside of having accommodation and all of that available, like of course I would have want to have enough money to also be able to save up some, because you're gonna have a future after football. So and sometimes you gain more money just working full time than playing. So you gotta like, are you thinking about your future or are you thinking about right now? You know.
And do you think about sometimes about what comes after football? Like, what are you gonna do after that?
Yeah, of course. Like I think long term. So like that's also why I'm studying online right now. To like build on my future as well as I'm playing football. And like kind of mix the both, because it is possible to both focus on football and your future. Yeah, it's a what do you call that in English? I think it's what right now it's hospitality, tourism. Yeah, I think hospitality, tourism, management. But I can like top it up with a sports management, and that's what I'm gonna do. That's what I'm planning on doing. Yeah.
Makes sense with all the countries you've traveled and lived in and all of that.
Right.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time. It was really great to talk to you, and I wish you all the best. I hope you find a cool club.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Women's football matters.